No.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday. You're looking at the backdrop behind me. That is just a fabricated backdrop. That's not really my place. I'm doing this because I got people walking around me and I don't want them to be exposed to the craziness that is the Rational Boomer. But I will tell folks they'll be excited because it's been a long time waiting for it. But Ed is back with us. Now, people say, why has it been so long since Ed's been on the show? And since the election, it's just today that I finally talked Ed off the ledge. He finally gained enough composure to come back on the show. So I'm thankful, Ed, that you decided to show up today.
Well, I was looking at other countries for one thing.
Would
Excuse me,
you?
that took up a lot of time, you know. And of course, I was in the underground bunker. I sent out a dove. The dove came back, so I ventured out and hooked up with you because no signal got into the bunker. But here I am. We seem to have survived thus far. Now I've got the door open to the bunker, though I can go back in anytime
Well, that's good.
if
That's
need
good to
be.
know that we were able to get you out for a short time and we can discuss what happens. Because I know a lot of people are concerned, obviously, and worried, and some people are terrified. And a lot of those folks really look to you for perspective because you're an older guy, even older than I am. And you seem to have some common sense thoughts on a lot of things that have gone on. I just want to say this up front. After the election, a lot of creators took a lot of heat for being wrong.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
will I will say
Hmm.
this. I took a little heat from a few people because I was wrong. And
Yeah.
um I, I'm all right with that because I have no problem. I have no shame in being wrong. But the way I explain it is what happened that night made no logical sense based on all the
No.
facts. And you and I weren't the only ones that said this is what's going to happen based on the facts. And I want to see what you think. I personally think the one thing I didn't count on is Democrats stepping on their own dick. And I think that's largely why Kamala Harris won. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I know you meant why Trump won, not Kamala, or
I
why
meant Trump
Kamala
won. Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I had to do some soul searching. And I have to say, I think, unfortunately, I should have been watching Fox News the whole time
Yeah.
rather than MSNBC and some of the liberal ones, because I should have realized this, and I do to a certain extent, that all of all of the different networks or whatever, they tailor to a certain group of people. They know they're not going to get Fox watchers on MSNBC, so they tailor to folks like me, and they tailor the facts. They all do it, and I should have factored that in. I really had. I felt the cold hand of fear clutch my spine when Joe Biden walked out on that stage for the debate, and I saw how he looked, I saw how he performed. But then the whole idea of finally maybe this is a chance for a woman to be president. We all got hooked, liberals like me and you. We got, although I characterizing you as a liberal is not probably completely fair. You lean liberal, but
Pretty
you're
much,
more,
though.
yeah. But anyway, I think we got carried away with the idea that this was a historic time and it was finally going to happen. And Trump was such a horrible candidate
Right.
that we could not believe that anyone would vote for him except a stone racist or someone who was only interested in money and they already had some of it, or someone who'd been poisoned against their neighbor by Fox News and the radio stations and all the newspapers and everything else that the oligarchs now control. I'd totally forgotten about all of that because I got caught up in the euphoria of it. And it wasn't until kind of late in the day on election day I started to feel, okay, this ain't going to work. There's something going on here. There should have been a blue wave by now, and it wasn't happening.
Right.
I'm still not sure that there wasn't a lot of voter roll deception and stuff. We know because they tried it,
Yeah.
Georgia and different places. So we don't know that way, but I think Trump legitimately won, which is I did have to pull back from the news media. I still am, for that matter, because I
Right.
can't trust what I see. I can only trust what I know, if that makes any sense. And I've done some soul searching on that. I wrote a thing back in 2016, when Hillary lost, and when I went back and read that, I said then that everything that held true then held true now. Trump was still an awful candidate, and we didn't know as much about him back then, but he was still a horrible person. We knew that. And we knew that Hillary had some baggage and so forth. But what I had forgotten, what was going on then too, was that not exactly folks like me, but the folks that have been on the gig economy. They don't have pensions. They're not looking forward to Social Security and all of that. They're always on the edge of poverty. The prices went up, and that's what they see. I hadn't factored in that know nothing pain, because they really are know nothing. They're either seduced by Fox News, or they don't pay attention to anything. They watch sports and reality shows and that sort of thing, but they never tune in a newscast. Not really.
Right.
They'll tune in Fox and hear what Hannity has to say about it, or somebody like that, but they don't really process the news and so forth. So I'd forgotten the ignorance, I'd forgotten the pain, I'd forgotten the racism, which is huge,
Huge.
and also
Sexism.
the misogyny, the sexism, and I have to say it's from women too. 52% of white women again voted for Trump.
Yeah. You know what's worse
I
than
think
that?
that's
You know what's worse than that? 60% of
what's
white
that?
men voted for Trump. 60%
Yeah,
of white
well,
men. Fuck you, white
yeah,
men.
yeah. I'm ashamed. I'm
I
truly
am too.
ashamed that 60%, that six out of, if you put 10 people in a room, six out of them are stupid, racist motherfuckers.
That's the
There's
only.
no
That's
other
it.
way to look at it.
You know,
Either that or they're oblivious. Take your pick. And
I
to me, that they've abdicated responsibility for themselves. You
I
know,
my
so
my
yeah,
joke
I'm pissed.
my joke is this: is if you voted for Donald Trump, you're either complicit and evil or stupid. And because I'm a half glass full guy, I'm going to take the positive and assume you're a fucking idiot. And that's one
Yeah,
way to look at it. The funny thing is, I'm hearing all kinds of reasons why Kamala lost, and they said it was. Some people were saying, and I don't necessarily agree with this, that it was they didn't give the idea of what they were going to do to make the economy better. Now, people like you and
mm-hmm.
I, we watch TV, we listen to different things. We get the economy, fucking stock market is great. The unemployment rate is great. The GDP is going up. Manufacturing is going up. The economy is good. But that's from our perspective. I have another perspective from millennials and Gen Zs. And there is a problem with the economy that she didn't address that the Democrats may be partly culpable for. While all this stuff is going on that's good in the economy, the question is, who is it good for? It's people with a little money or a lot of money that benefit
Exactly.
from it. The millennials right now are in a fucking very tough spot. I see it for myself. I know millennials that do this.
Mm-hmm.
They have jobs, they go to college, pay a shitload of money for college, they get jobs that don't pay shit, and then they can't afford
Mm-hmm.
housing and discretionary
Right.
money and buying new cars and things like that. That is a huge problem, not only for the millennials, but for this country, because they're going to be the mainstay for this economy very soon. And if they can't afford anything, nothing gets sold and the economy takes a shit. So when somebody says it's the economy stupid, and we say, oh, it looks great, it's because we're not seeing it from their perspective. And it is fucked up at this point.
Well, let me give you a little history, because that's what I'm here for. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
You were
I
there.
remember what. Yeah, I were there. Yeah, I remember when Reagan was elected the first time, I decided, well, how bad can it be? We got through Nixon, right? I mean, I knew he was more conservative and I knew there were some things that were going to happen. But, administrations change, you roll with them, right? I was working at a small stage, well, actually not that small. It pretty much dominated southern Minnesota, a farm station in Faribault. And the guy who owned it was rich. He billed several $1 million a year, and he was a big Reagan fan. He came up to the cities and went to a dinner with Reagan and got his picture taken, paid $1,000 for it, that kind of thing. So here's me working for. I think I was making about, let's say, about $1,000 a month at that point.
Right.
And I'll give the guy credit. He did have major medical for us, and he did have a little bit of a pension thing that you could, that he had set up. So he was not a bad guy. He had a temper and all of that. And he was hard to work for and all of that in some ways, but generally he treated his people pretty good, right?
Right.
But obviously, I was not a Reagan fan. I kept my mouth shut about that. But Reagan gets in, he enacts the big tax cut for folks. Now, this guy, my boss, made out like a bandit, and he took the tax cut money and bought a condo in Florida.
Nice.
For me, yeah. Now, okay, now we do 4 years, and Reagan is reelected. I'm disappointed. And I tell my wife, well, at least we're going to get a tax cut because he'd been pushing that. Well, he also Social Security. So when I got my next check after they did that, it was $20 less because of the way they were, the everything that happened. My boss still got a big tax cut. I was making $20 less. So I don't even know what my point is exactly here, except that I've been through crap before and stuff happens that you don't expect. But I still, at that point, Republicans were still sort of a mainstream party. They still had to, but that was the point where I believe that they declared war on anybody who wasn't rich.
Right.
They said they're surplus people, especially the ones in the South who voted for Trump. They really don't care if you live. No. As a matter of fact, they just as soon you died, they're going to try to get rid of SNAP. They're going to try to get rid of any program that helps you out. They're going to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, and all. You're not going to have any medical care. They are going to screw you to the wall. And you deserve it because you were stupid and you didn't pay attention.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Since Reagan, we've had a number of presidents, and we've had some Democratic presidents. The situation we are in now, don't you think the Democrats are somewhat culpable in this whole thing? That's why I always say it's not about Democrats versus Republicans. It's them against us.
But it is. No, that's not true. You're right. See, what happened after Reagan? He destroyed the unions, essentially.
Right.
Right? And that had been the Democratic base. That's where they got their money from to run. And all of that was from the unions in large part. Organized labor fueled the Democrats, right? Well, they decided to offshore all the jobs, the good paying ones, and all of the unions lost members and so forth. And, they broke other unions like the air traffic controllers. The unions went into decline. Right. The Democrats looked around and said, where are we going to get the money? We've got to go to Wall Street, too. Then that's why you saw Bill Clinton essentially giving his presidency over to Goldman Sachs. Right. And giving us, ending, quote, quote, welfare as we know it. They moved to the center, they say. Actually, what they did was move way right. Right. They moved way right of center. The left was shut out completely, except for, people who would raise hell like Bernie Sanders and people like that. And that's what happened. I think that's what happened to Kamala, is that people said right afterward, all the pundits started saying, well, she should have run more center. That's bullshit. She was already past the center. She was to the right. She should have run left. She should have said, look, you people are hurting, and this is what we're going to do to make life better for you. We're going to break up the corporations.
Right.
We are going to make sure that there are not only 6 companies controlling your food so that they can call each other and say, how much are we going to raise prices today? Because that's what they do. And that would have been a winning stratagem, I do believe, to run left. And that's where the Democrats are going to have to get back to Roosevelt. They're going to have to run left. You can't pretend to be a Republican. They'll always vote for the real thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And after the 2 years that we see coming up, if we're allowed to vote again, and that's still up in the air, if we're allowed to vote again, they will go down in flames. Because if you just look at what Trump has done so far, just the people he has chosen, that shows us one thing. He wants to destroy every department that he's named a cabinet secretary for, whether it's justice or education or whatever it may be. The person is there to destroy that particular cabinet area, whatever it may be. That's what they're there for. Now, some of them are going to make it, just like Matt Gaetz. I don't think the defense secretary guy is going to make it, the Fox News anchor, which is, but I'm not sure. Is he really that delusional and stupid? Is he doing it just to rile people like me up or everybody? Or does he really, is it just loyalty? He just thinks these people will be loyal to him and do whatever he says.
I think he's picking people that he can manipulate and control. There's no question about that. But with Donald Trump as a narcissist, I think people go too far thinking, oh, he's got some strategy. He's playing 3D chess. He's reactive. He's
No.
emotional. And basically what he's doing is what narcissists always do, trying to show domination. You think this is a bad pick? I'll show you how powerful I am. I'm going to pick this person and shove it down your throat. That's exactly what he's doing. And let me ask you this, because I get this all the time. People say, well, he's president now. He can do anything. That's not fucking true. In spite of
No, it isn't.
all the things that people hear from Donald Trump, he's a pathological liar, but people still believe him, especially the Democrats. I'm going to give this theory to you and see what you think.
All
Donald
right.
Trump had some value when he became president in 2017, right? Because he could get money, he could get votes, and maybe get reelected in 2020. The only value Donald Trump has to the Republican Party at this point is getting them the presidency and hopefully the House and the Senate. He's done that. Now, the moment he takes office, he immediately becomes a liability to the Republican Party because they got everything they wanted. If the economy tanks, if there's some crazy war, if there's some fucked up thing that goes on, it's all going to be on the Republicans. So you've got Republicans that are somewhat normal that are saying, okay, we got us here. Now we got to pull this back a little bit in order to try to get reelected in 2026 or 2028. And we're already seeing it. He wanted Rick Scott as the Senate leader. You got John Thune, who doesn't like Donald Trump. That's already kind of a guardrail. They're talking about recess appointments. Mitch McConnell and some others said, yeah, that's not going to happen. I think we're going to see normal Republicans trying to settle things down a little bit and not let him go too crazy because he'll never pay the price for it, but they fucking will.
I hope you're right. That is when the dove when the dove came back and I came out. That's the first thing I looked at to see, are there any normal ones left? And sort of. There's no Howard Bakers. No.
No.
There's no John McCain's that I can see. There is very few that aren't compromised in some way. And let me point out that Lauren Boebert was reelected. I don't think anybody's mentioned that, but
And
she was.
Margie.
So,
And Margie.
and Marjorie, I don't think Marjorie had a problem. Okay. And Matt Gaetz, all of these people were reelected. Now he's done. I mean, I hopefully he winds up in prison somehow, but he's not going back to the House. I mean, he could get an appointment, I suppose, some sort. They might try him again, but I doubt it.
Well, some people have suggested this, and it sounds like it's not going to happen. I'd be surprised because the Senate would push back. But Marco Rubio is going to be the Secretary of State. So Ron DeSantis can appoint another
I think
senator to finish his term. So it could be, Matt.
it could be. I actually think that he will be confirmed. He's been around long enough. He has enough relationships in the Senate that I'm talking about Rubio. I do think he'll be confirmed
Yeah,
as Secretary of State.
I think he'll be confirmed because as bad a choice as that is, that's as good as we could ever hope for Donald Trump.
The
But
ones
yeah.
that are going to run, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say regarding
the ones
Senate,
that are going to run into trouble are the, yeah, go ahead.
We got a delay here, so
up.
just keep, no, just, we got a delay here, so just keep going.
Okay, I'm just saying that the really ridiculous ones probably won't be confirmed, and I'm talking about the McMahon for Secretary of Education. The Secretary of Defense will not make it. I mean, they've already got the out on him. He's a sexual abuser, and he has no background at all. I mean, he served. Well, so did I.
Yeah.
I'll happily take over.
Yeah.
You know, but no, he has no expertise. None of these people do. It's like he's got a hat and he's just pulling out names or something, you know. But Rubio, I do predict will be confirmed. I don't know if DeSantis is that stupid. I wonder if the Senate wouldn't rebel and refuse to seat him.
I think Donald Trump would rebel because Donald Trump wants him to name Laura Trump to the Senate seat, which isn't any fucking better, but Donald Trump will win that one with DeSantis.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that Rubio will be Secretary of State because he's proven himself to be nothing but a go along. He's only in it for himself. He hates his own people. You know, he will do anything to retain power and money, right, or the influence or whatever. He's a waste of space. They all are. Everyone has been nominated is substandard. They shouldn't be picking up trash on the highway. Actually, they should be in some cases picking up trash on the highway, but they're not even qualified for that. They're just miserable people, and we're stuck with Trump having the power to do this because people are either disinterested or stupid. So I don't know.
Right after the election, people said to me, "What do we do now?" And I said, "Fuck, I don't know. I didn't expect this. I don't know what to do." And then out of frustration, I said, "Well, I mean, at this point, all you can do is just stand back and let them burn their motherfucking selves down." And people will say, "Well, you can't do that because innocent people will be hurt." And that's true. But what is the other option? And there is one option that isn't a direct attack on them, but I think ultimately works. They're going to burn themselves down. They always do. And they will hear and they will hurt people that are innocent. But this whole situation with Matt Gaetz is an interesting illustration of what I think needs to be done. Because the joke I tell people is that now that this has happened and I'm still here, my only option is to stand back, call the fuckers out, make fun of them, and just try to make them look stupid, make jokes about them, do whatever. And try to control public opinion, because at this point we have no control in the House, the Senate, or the presidency. We have one thing that will work in our favor, and that is the court of public opinion. We got to have public opinion. And Matt Gaetz, there were many people. Nicole Wallace on MSNBC said, "Oh, Matt Gaetz will definitely be approved to be the attorney general." And I said, "Nah, that's not true. There's no way it's true." But what happened there is he was trying to stop the leak of all this information. And of course, it leaked. And the more information came out, Matt Gaetz became a victim of cancel culture, which isn't a committee. It's just you do fucked up shit, people hate you, and that's just the way it is. So I think what happened with Matt Gaetz is really one of the few things we can do. take these dirty motherfuckers. Don't worry about the courts. Don't worry about the government because they fucking failed us, and just start canceling motherfuckers, exposing them. And if the media won't do it, we'll do it in social media and just destroy people's lives like Matt Gaetz, like Peter Hegseth, or any of these motherfuckers. That may be the only way we can do this.
I don't disagree with that at all. I just one word of caution for everyone. The people in Kosovo, a few months before the violence started, didn't really expect it to happen. The Jews in Germany didn't really expect it to happen. The Taliban taking over Afghanistan, they didn't, and the same in Iran. They didn't necessarily see that. These were at one time modern economies. Women were able to go to college, be doctors, be lawyers, whatever they wanted to do, dress Western style, and that sort of stuff. So do not, I caution everyone, do not take for granted that we are different, that the right wing here is somehow more benevolent than it is in Afghanistan or Iran or North Korea or wherever it may be. These are not benevolent people. Certainly, some of my neighbors around here voted for Trump. I think they're mostly oblivious. Some of them have money. I understand that, but that doesn't mean I like that they did it. And it doesn't mean that I forgive them at this point. But, or anyone else, but do not fall into the trap of thinking that it's business as usual. It isn't. They want to do away with Social Security. They want to do away with Medicare. They want to destroy the public education. They want to turn the clock back to around 1890 when a few oligarchs ran everything. They decided who the president would be and who the senators would be and who would serve in Congress because they had the money to do it. And each state was run by a machine. Each major city was run by a machine. People don't understand that the great leveler was the Depression, where a lot of that money just evaporated, went away. Now, a lot of them managed to hang on to enough, but they did not have these gigantic fortunes like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies once controlled. And then, thanks to Roosevelt, things began to change, and the middle class was born. And we forgot just how ruthless these oligarchs could be. And we don't teach the labor movement where these oligarchs, the Rockefellers and so forth, would pay thugs to go in with sledgehammers and rifles and whatever and actually kill strikers. And that the state militia in Colorado gunned down strikers at the Ford plant there. In downtown Minneapolis, a trucker strike, the police opened fire on the truckers striking there. People forget just how ruthless these people are and just how much they want you and me to be nothing but a peon. That is what they want. Don't forget that. They are ruthless people, and they have to be destroyed in the sense that the clutch that the corporations have on this country, because we've reached that point again. It was corporate money that decided this election as much as anything else, in the sense not that they paid for ads, it's that they owned the newspapers.
Right.
Mr. Bezos.
Right. Exactly.
They owned the newspapers. They owned the networks, all of the networks. They owned MSNBC too. They not only control what is said, but what isn't said, and that has to change. Joe Hill was a famous labor guy who was convicted on trumped up charges and executed. His last words were, "Don't mourn, organize." That's what we have to get back to. We have to get to the point where we see that there's something larger than us individually, but when we come together, we have power. So we have to become, why not a general strike? I think that's probably illegal, but how are they going to stop it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we decide to shut down the country, we can do that. We're half the country. We don't shop. We buy a few things, get us through, then we don't shop for a week.
Yeah. All you have to do it is a week, and that will send a
Yeah,
fucking message.
right. You know, I mean, a general strike would go a long way. They've been doing it in Europe for years, and it works.
Well,
There's things that we can do, and we have to organize. We have the tools, we have the social media. Now, a caution, of course, we're going to lose a lot of freedom on the social media because they're all owned by oligarchs.
yeah.
You know, maybe we have to go to something, we have to create something new. You've heard of Soros, George Soros,
Right.
right?
Well, I get a check from him
Okay.
every week. So,
Yeah, me too. But he was, he's been demonized by the right, but uh, they shouldn't be because he fought very much against the communists and so forth as they took over Eastern Europe. And the one thing that he put money into was mimeograph machines so that people could um,
publish.
reproduce the things, publish the things they wanted to say, and that nobody, this was done in a back room somewhere, and nobody knew it. So we're going to have to do that sort of thing. Write the papers. If they want to publish your letter, then just get your printer out and go down the highway throwing out sheafs of paper. Do what you can do to get the word out and tell people that the oligarchs are coming for us. They want us to be in the position where we, okay, they'll round up all of the quote illegals and send them away. Somebody's got to pick those veggies. They want it to be you and me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after the election, a lot of people were crying and upset. Oh, the world's going to end. The sky is going to fall. That's all well and good. But curling up and dying and getting in the fetal position in the corner is exactly what they want you to
No.
do. You got to step up, get pissed off, and fight back in any way you could possibly do it. And if you're not willing to fight back, then just go wait it out and we'll call you when it's over because I'm tired of people fucking whining.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. This is it, folks. We're Sarajevo before the violence started. We're Germany before the Gestapo started going around. I'm always I go back to Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Remember him? He
Right.
was a dissident in Russia. He was thrown into the gulags and all of that, along with a lot of other resistors and so forth. And near the end of one of his books, I think it was the Gulag Archipelago, he said, I wonder now, when the secret police went out to claim their victims, how eager would they have been if some of them didn't come back?
Yeah. Well, that's a
So
good point.
you have to, I'm not saying that you go out and shoot people. I'm saying be prepared that you must resist in whatever way you can. I do not encourage violence in any way. But when the secret police start going out, then you need to reevaluate. And quite frankly, I mean, if they do think that they're going to send troops into cities and root out these undocumented people, there's going to be pushback.
Oh,
There's going
yeah.
to be violence.
There's definitely going to be some violence.
Okay, one thing I wanted to clarify earlier, I started talking about when I was working at a small radio station and Reagan was elected and how it affected me and so forth. My point there, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, is that's when the assault on the middle class started. Probably a little bit before that, but with the election of Reagan, that gave them the base of power from which they could go to try to roll back the clock because they saw the middle class having power as a danger to the accumulation of wealth for the oligarchs.
Right.
And it truthfully was, because as people had the leisure time and the influence, they wanted a more equal distribution. That's when civil rights was in flower before that, and that scared them. They did not want cheap labor to go away. That's why when Trump talks about black jobs, That's the mindset.
Right.
Okay. They think that black people should be shoeshine men. They should be garbage men. They should do. They're only allowed to do certain things. Same with Hispanic immigrants, and same with poor white people.
Right.
The very people who seem to think Trump is a god or sent by God, these are the people that they want to exploit. The poor. Look at Kentucky. They came in there, they took their land, they gave them a few bucks for their mineral rights, and then they came in, and before long, nothing could grow because of what they did to the land. So everybody had to go to work for the coal companies, and they would pay them in their own money. So they could never save anything to move away. They were essentially slaves then to the company store. They had to pay with this fake money for whatever the company store wanted to charge, and they were locked in. And in a lot of places in Kentucky, that's still true.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yet these people vote for Trump. They still
Yeah.
vote for him.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well,
It,
you brought up the media. And I've for a long time said the media may be the most dangerous part of this country. I think that they are culpable or complicit in Donald Trump getting elected in the first term and in the second term. And I'm talking about the left and the right. Um,
yeah.
there is no journalism anymore, which is a problem.
Nope.
Everybody's offering opinion and slants and that sort of stuff. Now, after the November 5th election, I said, all right, I'm done watching mainstream cable news. I used to watch it to get stories,
Yeah.
and then I would dig it out through better sources. But I'm just stopping watching it. And, that's well and good for me to say. But it sounds like a
Mhm.
lot of other people are doing it. I mean, we know that MSNBC lost about half their audience, and then when the Meek and Joe thing
And
happened,
they're up for sale, by the way.
they're up for
Yeah,
sale.
they're up for sale, by the way.
So do you think with people pulling away from mainstream media and the cable news, do you think this is the people finally getting enough, sending a message, and that message is being received?
I would hope so. The problem is, where do they go? I mean, there were some good people on
Right
MSBC,
here.
MSNBC.
They can come
Yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing, but they don't discriminate. There's also Joe Rogan, right?
Right.
And Joe Rogan influences a lot of young black men too, for that matter, but
Yeah.
particularly younger white men, and probably some Hispanics too. Um, uh, I mean, and he's a Trump supporter. Whether he says it or not, he was. So people are they don't have they're not able to they don't have the background, I guess I would say, to look at you or look at Joe Rogan and pick the right one. It's like Joe
The
has
good
big
looking
audience, so
one.
they listen. Yeah, there you go. That's easy. But there were good people. Nicole Wallace, a good example on MSNBC. But um, I got real, and I remarked this to my wife. I get tired of seeing the same four people on every panel.
Yeah.
Claire
Yeah.
McCaskill, okay, a minor senator from a sucky state, and yet she's always on there giving her opinions. I mean, I
Right.
have nothing against her in particular, but I don't know that she's relevant or
Yeah.
that she's particularly insightful.
Right.
And any number of others said things that didn't happen that they were so sure of, and of course people turned their back on it because we were reassured that what we wanted to happen was going to happen, and it didn't. And we shouldn't have been so easy on that. Maybe we would have been a little more active. Maybe we would have been out there getting a few more people to get to the polls.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have tailored that message and say, okay, yeah, the stock market's great, but most of these people don't have a pension.
Right.
They don't have they don't have a dog in that fight. They're not paying attention to that. They don't really give a shit if the stock market is going great because they're not doing well. Their groceries are still expensive. Their gas is still expensive, right?
Right.
And their perception, they didn't realize. Now I keep an eye on it. My groceries had gone down. My gas had gone down before the election by considerable amount.
Right.
And inflation had gone from like 8% to 2%. And the unemployment rate was terrific. The trouble is, maybe a lot of those jobs suck.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you work in assembly here and now, you work a 12-hour day, 7 days a week. And that's they're constantly fighting against paying overtime, against paying any sort of benefits like that. This is what I'm talking about, people. You are the target. They want you to be a peon. That is what they want. And there is no other way to spin it. There's no other way to look at it. These people don't care if you live. As a matter of fact, they just soon as you died, so they don't have to give you any sort of Social Security, any
Right.
sort of Medicare, any sort of help, no SNAP, nothing like that that would possibly help you out. They want you to have those kids so they can put them in the mines or they can put them in the meat processing plants. Oh, have all the kids you can, but we're not going to help you with that. No way. And we're certainly not going to educate them. We're going to take that public school money and give it as vouchers to people who already have their kids in private school.
Right.
There's been several studies that show that's exactly what happens. And with McMahon in charge of the education department, that's exactly what would happen. They would destroy the public schools. That's what they want to do.
Now,
Their kids will go to Harvard, which they will own by then, just like
yeah.
Trump,
Yeah.
who didn't
Well,
go to Harvard. He went to Penn, but then his daddy bought him into the grad school,
right.
with a
Well,
with a big, huge donation.
if people wonder why young people don't care about the stock market, now you and I are both fortunate to have pensions. My wife
Yeah,
has a pension. We work for the government, so we have pensions. And I will say this to anybody who has the opportunity to have a pension, regardless of what it is, whether it's big or small or whatever, it is a game changer. It is valuable to unbelievable amounts. It makes life
get
a
it.
lot easier. Get it. But here's the thing. Try to get a job in this country now with a company, whether they be big or small, that offers a pensions. They're few and far between. So this is why young people don't worry about the stock market, because they don't have a dog in the fucking fight. They don't make enough money to invest themselves. They don't have pensions. And therein lies the problem is we've got big companies not supporting their employees like they once did, even like they did when we were younger. So um, they just don't care about these rich people making more money. That doesn't equate into a good economy for them. Um, and I think the media is responsible for trying to make things rosy and trying to sell a point. Here's the one thing: everybody has a favorite on mainstream news. I like Lawrence O'Donnell. I think he's one of the few people that
Yeah.
I get a straight talk from. But he has one drawback that I don't have, that you don't have, that a lot of people don't have. It's the guy or the gal in the suit behind him that hold all the purses, and will say, Lawrence, don't do it that way. Do it this way. And he's obliged to do that, whether he wants to or not, or he gets fucking fired. And that's the problem. Even your favorite people in the media are
Yeah.
controlled by somebody else, which taints the whole fucking process.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, at one time, um, the news aspect of the media was a mandate.
Right.
You will do this in order for us to let you use that part of the broadcast spectrum for free,
Right.
whether it was radio, whether it was TV. That was the thing. This is a public service you have to do. And they did it grudgingly. And, Sunday afternoon, they throw on their public affairs stuff and that kind of stuff. But then they discovered they could make money from it. And after that, then it was just, there was no going back from that. But accumulation of wealth is the problem. That is it. That they are able to accumulate. If certain individuals are able to accumulate these huge amounts of money, and then they're able to hire all the lawyers coming out of all of the top law schools that will work for the Heritage Institute, whoever it may be, that will make it easier for them to get even more money, and will suppress the truth. They even do it with the public radio and television, in that they are now dependent on those same sources, and they err by omission. They just won't tell you. They won't lie, but they won't tell you. But they're still subject to that. If you're running, if you have a program on and it's being supported by a major oil company, you're not going to diss that major oil company in that show and maybe in no other ones, because you want that money to keep going. You have salaries to pay, and so forth. So until the point comes, and I don't know, it has to be some sort of revolution, and I don't mean by guns or anything like that. But we have to find a way to reach people, and maybe we have to hit bottom. Maybe they have to cancel Social Security, and the Republicans then suddenly see, what are we going to do with grandma? You know,
Yeah.
what am I going to do here? I'm 63. I was looking forward to retiring in 4 years, and now they're raising the age to 75. That's one proposal, by the way, by Project 2025, that 75 be the new retirement age. And I'll be honest with you, I'm hoping, Social Security is not my entire income, but it's a chunk.
Yeah.
Both me and my wife
Right.
receive benefits, and I would have to find a way to replace that income if it should go away or be reduced. And something's going to happen there. I'm hoping that the debacle of trying to deport several million people breaks down in such a way that they don't have time to do much else. Um,
Well, this is what I've
we
said
do
about
have the
them.
filibuster still.
Yeah, we do have the filibuster, but this is what I've also said. There was a lot of worries in the first tenure of Donald Trump, but we've got one thing working against us, or working for us, actually. Donald Trump is absolutely fucking incompetent, and the people he's putting up are even more incompetent
Oh
in
yeah,
their positions. And if there's any pushback from Republicans, I mean,
yes.
let's be honest. If we talk about taking away Social Security or Medicare, that is going to be a long, hard, arduous fight. It affects a lot of people. Donald Trump's not going to be able to walk in there and say, okay, we're cutting Social Security, and the Republicans will follow through. That's not going to happen, because it's going to affect too many people, and it's going to burn down everything, not just the Republican Party, everything.
No, but they can do things like, and he wanted to do this in his first administration, cancel the payroll tax.
Yeah.
Now, the low information voter is going to go, wow, that's great. That'll save me some money, not realizing that that is where his Social Security, that pays for Social Security. The other thing, during the campaign, he said, we're going to stop taxing Social Security, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody said, hooray. As a matter of fact, Kamala said, we're going to do the same thing, right? That also impacts Social Security, because that is income that fuels Social Security. And if it goes away, you have to replace it. Where does it come from? Does it come from the defense budget? Where does it come from? You know, there is revenue that has to be there to pay those benefits. And if you're not taxing the benefits, that's less revenue to pay the benefits. So you've got to consider every single thing. That proposal from the Heritage Institute through Trump was an attack on Social Security.
Well, let's be honest. Initially, Social Security wasn't taxed, was it? It was Ronald Reagan who decided to
No,
tax it.
yeah, exactly. And the reason that he got that through was the reason I just gave you.
Yeah.
He and Tip O'Neill went into a room and said, how are we going to save, quote, save Social Security? We have to have more revenue. Tip agreed. They did it, but then Reagan just spent the revenue. It didn't do anything for Social Security. It wasn't set aside for Social Security. He poured it into Star Wars so that we could bankrupt Russia. I mean, this is a Republican promise is not worth anything. It's
No.
always a subterfuge. It's always a way to make you and me earn less money, get fewer benefits, and have to work for whoever for whatever they want to pay.
Now,
That's the Republican way.
Now, as I understand Social Security, maybe Medicare too, but Social Security isn't part of the budget. It's kind of
No.
And you don't see the federal government put money in. You see them take a lot of money fucking out and borrow it and never pay it back. I know Reagan did, and other folks. So my question is, why is it always an argument about Social Security when it doesn't really impact the budget? It's got to be that it's a personal attack. That's the only reason they would care.
Well, it is. Let me explain something, okay, if I can, to clarify.
Sure.
Uh, Social Security, there is no Social Security fund per se, okay? It's a tax, and the tax comes in as revenue. It's a tax on it's the payroll tax. It affects both the worker and his boss or her boss. They each pay some in that goes in, but that money comes in. And according by law, any money that comes in has to be spent because we have a deficit.
Right.
So no money is saved. So what they do is when that money comes in, and I must correct because my buddy who worked in Social Security for 50 years, right, has always, maintained this to me and explained it to me. Nobody stole anything. Nobody borrowed it. They borrowed it in the sense that they put bonds in place, but they're
Okay.
interest-bearing bonds, and that as long as the government stands, they have to be paid, right? But we have a deficit. So the money that comes in has to be spent to pay that. And so there is no money to pay Social Security beyond a certain point. They don't catch up. Either we have to balance the budget or something, or we have to raise more revenue. And since Reagan, we've been going in the opposite direction.
Right.
When Reagan came in, I forget what the top rate was, but it was way up there. He cut it like in half. And
Right.
then every Republican since then, including Trump, has cut taxes on the wealthy. That's where that revenue came from. That's why we have a deficit. It's not because we overspend, we underspend. But no, we don't collect the taxes that we should. Amazon pays no taxes,
Right.
none,
Right.
zero. And a lot of other major corporations are that way. Not only do they not pay taxes, but they get money back that they don't pay in. So this is why Social Security is in jeopardy. It's because that the money is put into bonds, which just sit there. They do generate some interest, but it's not enough. The deficit continues to grow. Trump, raised it by like 8 trillion,
Right.
something like that. And it does at some point it has to break. But if there's no money, you can't pay the bill. That's why they have these continuing resolutions, right?
Right.
That they have to keep borrowing money. I mean, okay, like for Trump, for example, he put a tariff on China, right?
Right.
That impacted American farmers. They stopped buying our soybeans. So he borrowed money from China to pay the farmers to not grow soybeans.
Yeah.
So we're actually paying money to China at the same time we're charging them a tariff. I mean, you get into these intricacies like this, and it's insane. But when you have a small group of people and corporate heads, they don't care because their money keeps growing and they do use it to do stock buybacks, which should be illegal. And then they just keep right on rolling. It has to be broken up. We have to do a Teddy Roosevelt. We have to get a big stick and start smashing corporations left and right, destroying them, spreading them out. Where there's now one, there needs to be 50.
Right. Well, do you think that I feel like it's the only option. When I said we'll just stand back and let them burn themselves
Mm-hmm.
down. Apparently, people don't listen to facts. They don't comprehend the truth. I've always said that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people apparently need to get bit in the ass before they take any action. So is that our only hope here is to watch these fuckers get burned down? Because frankly, some of the things Donald Trump is talking about is going to hurt the red states before the blue states, and maybe even more so. Do we wait and see if they fuck around and find out and actually learn a lesson? And do they learn that lesson?
Well, I'm hoping that the blue states will California's already said, what happens if we don't send in our federal tax money? You
Yeah.
know, they could do that. Minnesota, California, New York, they could withhold their federal tax money, and then we're bankrupt.
Yeah.
They can't pay shit. You
Right.
know, the other thing we could do is reduce the defense budget, which is nothing but a giveaway to rich people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's who's invested in the defense companies, and well, that's why we keep having wars is to funnel all of that money into the oligarchs, and we need to deport some people. We need to deport some really nasty people like Elon Musk
Right.
and Peter Thiel. These are the people who need to be deported. Uh, these are
The
I can't
scourge
come
of the
up with.
earth.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. There's not much different. I mean, what's the difference between these guys and Kubla Khan, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm probably maligning Kubla Khan. He probably did some decent stuff. I'm not sure. Um, People don't change, you know? I mean, we have the same problems that we had 6,000 years ago. It's just in microcosm. You
Yeah.
know, anytime you have a big boss or a ruling group of people and everybody else is dependent on what they say and do, then you've got a problem. I mean, we were very lucky for a short period of time. We the people actually did have a say in this government. That is less and less so every time, every election. It is less and less so, and most of the reason is people are not engaged. They don't know where to look for the truth, and they will go with anybody that they think. Number one tells them what they already believe,
Yeah.
that it's because of immigrants, it's because of minorities, it's because of women, whatever, that they're not doing better. No,
Right.
it's because you believe some, usually white guy with a lot of money is going to give some to you, and he isn't. He's going to take yours.
Do you believe that we have an advantage over past generations in the social media aspect? We have people pulling away from the media, going to social media. Now, I know you're going to say the oligarchs own social media too, but they're in a quandary. They may not like what we say, but they love making money. And they aren't going to make money if we shut
Um,
everything down.
oh, absolutely. Well, I'm seeing everybody leaving X
Yeah,
and heading over to Blue Sky, which I
I did.
haven't. I haven't looked into it, but
I
a
did.
goodly number of people I know are doing it. Yeah.
Well, a
Well,
million,
this is the
million or more a
thing. I
day.
mean, it's not a panacea. Yeah. I mean, I got off X years ago.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as Elon took over, I was done because I knew where he would go with it and I knew why he bought it. But other than the fact that he's probably a little, what's the word I want? Fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
sounds right. He's like
I'm
Donald Trump.
not sure what is.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this though.
Yeah.
Everybody's worried about Elon Musk influence over Donald Trump. I say that doesn't last long because you can't take two narcissists and put
Nah,
them in the room and make it last. Once Elon gets a little more
no.
play or something, they're already having arguments amongst the upper staff with Donald Trump and Elon Musk because Elon Musk thinks he's the king. Elon Musk thinks he's the
Yeah.
smartest guy in the room. So there's no way these two coexist. There's going to be a separation at some point, and then Elon will be an enemy to Donald Trump, and that'll be a whole different situation.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I always thought that that was exactly what was going on. I think Elon wanted to be president, well, actually, dictator.
Right.
He wanted to be dictator of America, but he couldn't be elected. So he had to find a stooge to get elected that he could manipulate. And Donald Trump was right there. You
He's a
know, I,
stooge.
I really do believe. And Peter Thiel is, you know, they're cut from the same cloth. I mean, they're both South African, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, and they're guys who inherited money and they used it to get more money. That's what all the oligarchs are. There are very few that start out poor.
Right, right, exactly. So going forward, we have to decide what we're going to do, and everybody is asking that question. And I say, well, you got to fight, and they go, what do you mean? And I said, well, you just we almost have to do what the Republicans have done for the last 8 years: get loud, get in their face, control the narrative. And as you said, people are uninformed, ill-informed. Um, we've got to take control of the narrative. So the dumb people who don't know any better only hear from us, or hear mostly from us with the truth. We have the benefit of being truthful, as opposed to Donald Trump and the MAGA fucks spewing hate and lies and stuff. I see that as really our only option, and we have that benefit of having social media where we can interact with people. When I did TikTok and when I've done the podcast, people always say, "Why do you kick out all the Trump-a-fucks? You'll never teach them anything." I'll never teach them anything anyway. The only thing we can do is pull people
No.
together, and hopefully that gives
Yep.
us a bigger voice and more power.
I agree. And watch where you shop. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like a drop in the bucket, but Home Depot gave money to Trump. Lowe's did not. Walmart gave money to Trump. Target did not. Know where your money goes. Starve them.
yeah,
Everybody here goes to Walmart, and Walmart's working against them. Target is a retail business, right? They're there to make money, but they do on occasion show some small leanings toward being maybe a little bit better um, for democracy. Make every penny count. Um, don't I really do think some targeted and not just like the Republicans do, shoot your cooler or something like that, because or you're stop drinking your light beer because they had a trans person doing a commercial. No, what you have to do is we really do need to have some general things, like we don't shop at all for a
right.
week.
Yeah,
We don't buy gas for a week.
right.
That sends a huge message. Now, it will, it probably will hurt the local gas guy for a little while, but it hurts the big guy more. And they will pay attention if you are sticking your hand in their pocket even a little bit. So that's what we have to organize. We have to
Absolutely.
organize these things, and we have to get them going, and we all have to chime in, and we all have to say, no gas Monday. Today is no gas Monday. So get your gas the Friday before or whatever. But nobody buys gas on Monday or
Right,
Wednesday or Friday or whatever it may be. No meat Tuesday.
right.
We get off. We don't drink Coke or Pepsi for a month.
Yeah.
No Mountain Dew. They will notice that. They will hear it, and that will make a difference. That's the economic. We do have economic power if we act together.
Well, in the Constitution, the intention was to give the power to the people, right? But
Yes, absolutely.
because of apathy over decade, we've given away that power to politicians, to the government, to the elite, to wealthy people, to big corporations. We've given it away. So now we're at a point where we have to grab that shit back and take it back. And the only options we have are what you're saying is public opinion and talking loud and taking what means the most to them, their money. And as you said, the most important thing is to organize and to be
Yeah.
serious enough to actually follow through with this. This whole apathy thing, that's not a thing anymore. You can't afford to be apathetic. You better get involved or you're going to get
No.
fucking run over.
Yeah, and the thing to remember too is that power of the people is a fairly new thing. Okay, when they started the country, only white men who owned property could vote, and that
Right.
was the case in many states right on into deep into the 1800s. So it's been a little over 120 years since most white men have been able to vote, much less for black men and women, and for women, period. Right.
Right.
So it was that little tiny window from when the labor movement really got going and was able to have an impact, and people died. I mean, this was not an easy thing. I mean, this was people in a factory saying, we're not working until we get better conditions and
Right.
pay, and nobody else is coming in to take our place, and we will stand here and defend that. And there were battles and people died, but that was what it took, the determination to stand there and not work, to shut down the factory, to do whatever it took to make the oligarchs kowtow. And and the Depression and then Roosevelt's policies helped. And from about 48 to 73 is when we had even an inkling of the American dream. And that was mostly for white people, quite frankly.
And people,
that was it. That was it. That window.
Well, people like you and I, and people that listen to this podcast, some of them anyway, that's why we have a sense of urgency of getting down to business right fucking now. Because you and I don't have 25 years. We're not going to be relevant, or we're not going to be alive in 25 years. So the fighting, the pushing, the arguing, the noise has to start right the fuck now. We're not going to be able to do that. And it's not because I'm trying to save me or save you. We're going to be pretty much the same no matter what. But if we hope to leave this a better place than when we found it, the fucking fight starts now and today.
That's right. And it can't be the old folks against the young folks. We have to get together. I mean, I know right now when I do something on TikTok that half the people will see what I look like and they'll keep going. Not because I'm scary, but because I'm old. I have a white beard and not much hair and so forth. So that for a lot of young people, that's a turnoff. They just dismiss me because I'm a boomer and I'm part of the problem and so forth. So they're not going to listen to me for the most part, and probably for you too.
But, no. That's different for me, because while I'm old, I'm cool. So I draw people in.
There you go. Well, I'm basking in your coolness. Then,
thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm siphoning off a little bit of it. I hope that young folks can realize there are some of us who care about them and actually believe that they can make the difference. I mean, they are the ones who are going to have to say, no more gig economy.
Right.
No. As a matter of fact, before I leave, I just screwed you to the wall. I just put a virus in you that's going to keep you locked up for 6 months. Right. I mean, there are things that can be done. I'm not suggesting that, by the way. I'm just saying that your labor. See, this is the problem. When you boil it down, we are a capitalistic society. That's what we've decided that we are, and that puts wealth against labor. Since Reagan, labor has been put down. It's been seen as a necessary evil. It should be equal. Capital and labor have to be equal, and that they both have to be able to see a return on what they do. You want to invest your money, you get a decent return. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But if you invest your labor, you need a decent return. If you work an 8-hour day or whatever it is, which is what it should be, at least, if you work that, you should be compensated in a way that will allow you to feed yourself, have shelter for you and your family, maybe some luxuries and so forth. Then you can push on. Right. Maybe you can start your own business or something like that. But your basic needs should be met if you are willing to give your time and your effort to someone for a specific time. It should be rewarded in a way that allows you to live. And since Reagan, that has gone steadily down. And the accumulation of wealth, the average person's ability to accumulate wealth, and most of that is through a house. You buy a house, it increases in value. At some point, you sell it and give your kids some money, and you take yours and you go to a smaller place. Whatever. Being able to purchase a home is the clearest way to pass wealth on to the next generation. I know you and your wife have done it for your kids, right? Yeah. Well, that has to be That has to be a factor. That has to be a factor in that we have to restore that ability for people to buy a home, let it increase in value, and then pass that along to the next generation. That is how wealth is accumulated. It's by acquiring capital that in itself then gains value. And we
Absolutely.
have lost that,
Yeah.
and we have to get it back. And that's the simple message. We have to get it back. If that means you shut down the factory, that's what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. Ed, thanks for finally coming back. Don't stay away so long. People, when old guys like us don't appear, they think we're dead. So we want to keep your words and your face alive. So hopefully we can hook this up next week and get back on track to have you here regularly so people feel better.
That sounds good to me.
And check out Ed at Holler Troll, HOLLERTROLL, on TikTok and YouTube. Be sure to stay in touch with him. He's got some great stories. He's kind of a modern day Paul Harvey. And if you don't know who Paul Harvey is, Google that shit. The old people know who I'm talking about. So for
Yeah, more
those
of
of
a left wing Paul Harvey.
yeah, that's true.
Okay.
For those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.